Welcome, Piano Craft Tribe. Today, I'm actually really excited today. I've been looking forward to this ever since we announced that we're going to be doing kind of a piano tuning lever Q&A class. And honestly, the tuning hammers are one of those tools that, like, there's this scene in a movie I don't really recommend, but it is very apropos. But it's called American Psycho, and it's got Christian Bale in it. And in this scene, you have these businessmen that are showing their business cards, and they're like kind of going around and showing what they're doing. They're kind of one-upping. And I feel like that kind of happens in the world of piano technicians with regards to piano tuning hammers. That's kind of what it is. And even if there's not a jealousy thing, there is a genuine appreciation for everybody's tuning hammer and the ins and outs. So I don't know, Michael, Victor, I mean, you guys have been doing this for a little while. Robert, have you guys experienced that, talking with other technicians?
I haven't talked to any other technicians other than here online, so not in real life.
Yeah, at the chapter meetings, when we actually had a roundtable earlier this year on tools, and of course, tuning hammers came up, and everybody had different types of hammers and had their reasoning for why it worked for them. So yeah, I know what you're talking about, where people like to talk about their tuning hammer and why it works for them.
It's so true. And I've seen all the different. I've seen so many different ones. I've seen like homemade ones. I've seen like the most expensive kind. I've seen like all the carbon fiber, all the wood. So I'm a real appreciator of tuning hammers. I've never seen a tuning hammer that I'm like, nope, that's dumb. I'm always kind of like, oh, interesting. How do you like it? And so right now, today, I'm going to show you 3 of the tuning hammers that kind of I have access to right now and kind of my thoughts. And then we can kind of open it up to like, hey, what do you guys have? What's underneath the hood, if you will, and talk about some of your old favorite. This is our tried and true. This is the kind of the Artisan standby. You know, these, I think we have like a dozen of these at the shop from people, you know, from us getting these over the years. And these are the Yawn tuning hammers. And Victor was able to find out that sure enough, they still sell these on Shaft. And so this is a very simple tuning hammer. I like it because it's kind of old school with, you know, it has the nickel, has the brass, has the wood. I kind of like that old school simplicity. And I think that a lot of the new hammers, as you're going to see, have moved away from some of that and are a little bit more kind of, what would the word be? Camping is kind of the same way. Its camping gear has moved away from some of this to more of the carbon fiber, the lightweight, the performance oriented. But this is a great hammer. I think they're around $300 to $400. The only thing I do change is this comes with a different orientation. This comes originally flipped, and we've done a little customizing to these. We also sand them down a little bit to just give it a smaller profile. But overall, this is kind of a smaller tuning hammer. Again, you've seen me do this before, but the reason I like this is because I like to have control over the entire tuning hammer. Some of the newer ones that you see out in the market are very long, and I just kind of like the simplicity and the size of this. If I had to guess, it's around 11 inches long. So again, this is a great hammer. $350 to $400 is a Yawn tuning hammer available at Shaft. This will definitely get the job done. I've been using this for probably 20 years. 20 years I've been using these guys, and I've kind of never experimented with too much outside of that.
What did you say that you flipped on it?
Yeah, so the head, the way that it comes, wow, I kind of just muscled that. I just did that. The way that it comes is like this. Basically like that. It comes, and then you would put it right here. We remove it and then put the tip right here. So again, it comes like this. We've moved it so that it's longer and it has less of an angle. And that was a recommendation by my mentor at the time. And it was with that mentor, he's a great guy and he's a great tech, but it was one of those things I'm like, yes, Whatever you're laying down, I'm picking up, I'm doing it. And that's the kind of the thing, you know, and I think that's sometimes good to do at first, because it's like you find a mentor you trust. Victor, you and Ramses have a mentor that you like. It's kind of like, okay, I'll give it a try. And that's what I did. And honestly, I've tried newer hammers, other hammers, and I don't know if it's like I'm just so imprinted on this, but I'm just so used to it. So basically, we just changed the orientation. This tuning tip was originally down here, and it was attached right here to this point, and we just swapped it. And that gave us more length right here to miss those plate struts, and it gave us a little bit less of an angle, which I've liked. That being said, I did talk to Mark Perney and talk to him a little bit about, they have a model of hammer that's fairly similar, and that's what this one is right here. So as you can see, close to the same size. You all can see this, yeah? Okay, great. Close to the same size. This angle, as you can see, is more drastic. Right now, this is a 15. I did find out from Mark that they're going to be coming out with a 10. So they're going to be coming out with a 10, and he's actually currently making me a custom one of these. I'm a big fan of Oregon black walnut, so he's going to actually turn something, a custom handle in black walnut for me that's still going to have the same length and the feel, and then a 10 millimeter, and I can't wait to get that. But he's going to be starting to make these with wood handles as opposed to just kind of this, I don't know, this is kind of a plasticky material. I did find out from Mark and Dawn what their goal was in creating their own line of tuning hammers. And Robert, I think you have one of these, a similar one to them, right? Perfect. We're going to go over that one next, but their goal in making their tuning hammers was they wanted several things. They wanted to make the lightest tuning hammer on the market, which I guess this is, as well as the stiffest tuning hammer on the market. Just so you know, I know Mark and Dawn, and they are like salt of the earth, the most honest, trustworthy, and like work ethic to the max. I trust him. I don't know if this is I know that this is the lightest hammer on the earth because Mark told me it and he wouldn't lie. And it is night and day. It almost feels like this is filled with helium. Like it's so light, it's almost like floating when you compare it to this. This is so much heavier. And that'll be something that you all will have to decide. Do you like a little weight behind it to help you move those tuning pins? Or would you rather feel every little minute movement in a very ultralight tuning hammer like this? And so I recommend trying both, getting a heavier one. Again, one of the reasons this is so heavy is this is almost what we would call like full tang. You know how knives can be full tang knives? This has this steel that goes all the way through so that you can adjust this. Funny enough, I knew you were going to ask me, how often do you adjust that, David? I was like, no, I never adjust it, but I did adjust it the other day on a piano. So I do adjust it sometimes. And it was on an upright. I like the weight of this. I can't wait to get mine. I'm going to want mine with a 10 degree angle. The carbon fiber that they use is so specialized that I guess they have to sign a whole bunch of government things because of how like the applications are, you can only use it in so many things, but it's like very high end. So there's this hammer that they're making right now, as well as the one that Robert just was showing. And so this one has more of the ball tip. Is that what you have, Robert?
Yes.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that a lot too. And if you look at it, they kind of have this interesting ball shape. And that is to be able to kind of, you have this angle here going here, and then it kind of, the pitch levels off right here. So that you have this kind of equilibrium of different angles that allows you to really get nice movement on the pins. So they do have the ball tip design, as well as, again, that straight design right here. Both, yeah, this is, marginally heavier, but both extra light and extra rigid. It looks like you have a little bit larger tip on yours, Robert, if I'm looking at it correct.
Well, I have a 30 millimeter, so I like getting a little closer to the pin.
Yeah.
Versus the 40.
I can't see anything. I think that it's going to be close to what you have. I believe that these are roughly around $350 when you include the tip. And so these, again, are right in that price point as the yawn tuning hammer. But again, just these are ultra light and ultra stiff. That is to say there's no real flex on any of the components here. And so I can't wait to get mine because I'm going to experiment and play around with it a lot. Just so you know, both Mark and Don are going to the convention in Reno pretty soon, and they're really not taking a lot of orders until after that convention. They're also going to be doing a little bit of tweaking to the hammers and just doing a little design work to them as well. And then coming out with the turned wood, which will add another $100 to the price point. And so, again, $350 to $450, depending on whether you want wood or not. And it sounds like they'll be able to do a little bit of customization there as well. Because I think that, again, for me, I like more of the old school. And if we put a little wood on this, I think I'm sold. Questions about those hammers? Yeah, I'm curious, Robert, because you have one. What did you have before? What did you have after? Or, obviously you had something before.
This was heavy, and it was lethal. It's Amazon special. It was about $40.
Okay.
But no, I've only tuned a few with this, but I like the difference because I think I like the grip, the ball tip, and I can feel I can feel the pin more just because there's just nothing in between here. It's a little bit like I'm thinking of a pole vault pole, that type of material.
Yeah.
It's just very lightweight, but it's effective.
My brother Adam, who's one of the technicians at the Piano Technician Academy, this is his go-to hammer as well, and he's had several different hammers, and he always comes back to the Supply 88 rigid hammer like that. So it's a good hammer, and so you can't go wrong. Again, I would say to get a decent hammer, you're at around that $300 to $350 range to get that's a professional hammer. Does anybody else have the Supply 88 hammer?
Yep.
Who's yeah? I hear yeah.
Bruce.
Oh, hey, Bruce. Wait, I thought you had a yawn. You have a yawn and a Supply 88?
I collect hammers to see if it's the hammer or my lack of ability.
I love it. I think we should find the things that we like to collect, and I think that tuning hammers are a great write-off, and they're fun to collect.
Yeah, I've got 5 of them.
Did you get an impact hammer?
I won't answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, I've had the impact hammer for a long time, and I will tell you, I'm driving. Sorry, not very smart. It's not really accurate, I don't find. And I read that a lot about that particular hammer is that you can't just ease off the smidgy widgy when you're setting the pin. And that's very true. So I don't use it as much anymore.
By the way, Bruce, Dawn says hi.
Dawn loves me. I love Dawn.
She's like, Bruce, right? He mentioned that you're helping teach him. I'm like, yes, I know, Bruce. So she said, say hi. Yeah, I agree with you, Bruce. You can't. What did you say? Idgy smidgy? You're right. You can't get that idgy smidgy.
No, it's like smidgy widgy. You can't do it. It's like down 4 cents or something. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, I'm not a huge fan of those. And so anytime we get a lever that's actually making you move the pin, I'm a big fan of that. To be honest, until I talked with Mark and Don today, I didn't know that was their goal, is to make the lightest and most rigid hammer on the market. And that's actually one of the least expensive offerings as far as a professional tuning hammer.
Stephanie had a good question.
Yeah.
Are there pros and cons to using heavier weight hammers versus lighter? It's like,
yeah, it's a great question. And so, Stephanie, the thing that I've done, because I've tried some of the, this is definitely heavier. I would say by like 15 times heavier, it feels like. It's like dramatically. This doesn't feel like it has hardly any weight to it at all. Whereas my yawn tuning hammer has brass, it's got full tang, it's a heavier material. This, I feel like, will do some of the work for me. When you use a heavier hammer, it does throw some of the weight and do some of the weight for you. And I kind of like that. And so I'm going to be playing around with something more like this in the weeks to come. But you will have, maybe you will feel the pin more and feel all the little nuances with this. Whereas this will do some of the work for you in the movement of it, just because it has some more weight to it. You will get used to either. Neither of them are a bad option, but I'm a little bit nervous because I've used this, my yawn tuning hammer, for the last 20 years. This is going to be an adjustment period. And I feel like I'm going to be kind of exhausted tuning because I'm having to do all the work in getting momentum and getting weight behind this. Whereas here, there's a lot of weight behind this. So that's a good question. I would say stay tuned, Stephanie. We'll find out.
The one thing that I found, between my basic hammer that I got with the PTA toolkit and the new carbon fiber hammer that I have, is that I felt I was getting more tired moving the practice hammer, or the one from the PTA kit, because it was a heavier one similar to yours. And I felt like I wore out a lot more just moving it from pin to pin. Well, having the carbon fiber, it's a lot easier to move from pin to pin.
Oh, that's interesting. I could totally see that.
So here, just to show, here's the hammer that came from PTA, which is similar to the yawn. It just has a different head.
Yep.
Because it's also, has, the ability to, if I can unhook it here, shift the.
Oh, yep, it's full.
Shift that out, so it's, so as a backup hammer, this will be great if I need more clearance than what, my carbon fiber one has. So it's.
That is a thing of beauty. Is that the Reyburn?
Yeah, this is the Reyburn. So you can see it's got a carbon fiber core that goes all the way through, and then it's got a wood covering. And I don't know whether you can see it here. You can actually see the black of the carbon fiber on the end of the.
So it goes all the way through.
It goes all the way through. So that's your core, similar to the steel core of the other one. And then of course it can change, the different heads to different angles, and then of course the different tip versions.
What angle do you think you have that at right now, Michael?
I have the 10. It comes with a 12 and a half, and I went ahead and bought the 10. And it's. I had used a 12 and a half initially, and then I went and bought the 10 because I did not feel as confident with the 12 and a half. I felt like I was going to bend a pin. It didn't feel right. Yeah. And as soon as I went to the 10 degree, I felt so much better on any of the ones that I started doing tunings on. So that's what's working for me right now.
What's the overall length, if you had to guess, with that one?
Actually, I was measuring that. It's between 11 and 10 and 11. So, let's see and where are you measuring from, just for curiosity's sake?
Yeah, I'm kind of measuring at the furthest point.
So basically from the angle?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just over 10, so like 10 and a quarter.
What was your old PTA hammer's length?
So let's see what it looked like here.
Probably a lot longer.
It was longer, yeah. It's almost 11.
Yeah.
With it the steel all the way in.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether it's a combination of the angle of the tip, and also I think having a shorter hammer actually made it feel better for me.
It's interesting because I feel like hammers are starting to get shorter. I feel like if we went through a period, and a lot of those Fujian, am I saying it right? Fujian hammers?
Fujian is how I would pronounce it.
When they were coming out of the market, they were fairly long.
Well, the interesting thing is that if you think about, you have the steel that flexes a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And the carbon fiber is not going to have hardly any flex. It will have a little bit, but in comparison, next to none compared to the steel. So from a physics standpoint, with the flex, you would need a longer lever. If you think about fulcrum point being here, and you're trying to twist, so the longer the lever, the easier it is to apply force.
And you would say that on a non-carbon fiber, we'd have a longer hammer.
You would have a longer handle to create more leverage as a whole, but not necessarily. Again, it has to do with how much force you're applying as well, and your control. So it's not a tried and fast true method, because it doesn't have to be long. It can be more 10-inch.
No, but I was finding, 10 years ago, when it seemed like there was more of the carbon fiber starting to hit the market, that the overall length themselves was 12 plus inches. Really
big. True.
I wasn't a big fan.
Yeah, Fujian, their standard size, I think, was 12 inches, and you could get like a 2-inch extension.
Yes.
And so I seen them. They're like 14-inch long tuning hammers.
I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, but it seems like we're kind of backing down into that 10 to 11, even 9 to 11 range, which historically that's what technicians would use.
Yeah.
And so it is interesting that change.
I have something to add. I'm sorry. Talking about what Michael was saying with you get more. He would get more exhausted moving the heavier hammer from pin to pin, but I also feel like, I don't know if I was getting more tired, but I was definitely getting more frustrated with the PTA hammer, because it was just so much harder to feel, I'm like, am I moving the pin? Am I bending it? And so I would spend like minutes on one unison or one interval, whatever it is. And then now with Randy's, it's like, exactly what you're doing. And tuning time has gone up a lot. And so exactly what you're doing. I hear it. I feel it. There it is. Done. The other one is like, I'm guessing, am I there? Am I not there? Did I get it? So I'm getting less tired because it's just faster, and I'm not having to go get frustrated with the hammer. Is it moving or not? So I feel like it's, save time.
Well, and to kind of, Victor, to you, and then to Bruce's point, to be able to find the right, to up your hammer game, and to just cross that off the list to say it's not the hammer. That's such a nice thing to be able to be like, okay, I know it's not the hammer. It's my skills, and I need to work my way up.
Yeah.
It's just
I'm just not as good as I wish I was. Yeah.
Yeah. To Victor's point on the PTA hammer, that I felt I could feel the flex in the steel, and there was times where I was trying to move the pin, and it was the flex of the hammer, and the pin was not moving.
Exactly.
Or when it did move, it would pull and move through the point that I was shooting for.
Yes, exactly. You're trying to get a small click up to get past it, but then it was flexing, you could feel it, and then it finally would release, and you would go compared to Randy's, it would be 3 clicks up. Because the other one you could get a small click. This one you're getting 3 or 4 clicks the distance.
From the bottom of my heart, I am sorry about that, y'all, because I know.
But this was a perfect hammer, for having in a kit,
pretty good,
and also to have as a backup hammer. This is perfect for a backup hammer. So, considering everything else that I got in the kit for roughly $500, it was a bargain. So I'm not dissing this at all from the standpoint of, can this get the job done? Yeah. Is it my preferred hammer? No. But is this a great backup hammer? Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know where. I'm sorry.
No,
I don't know where Stillwell sourced these, but I'm 99% sure that this is a Watanabe tuning lever that you can get from it's the adjustable. I've looked into it a lot, and I think it's the same dimensions and everything, but I still think it's a decent hammer because my mentor, he's used it a few times. He travels a lot, and a couple of times he's like, Victor, I left my bag at home. Can I borrow your lever? And so he's borrowed this one many times. He's like, it feels just like mine. I love it. And he thinks it feels like the exact same. And so, his is a 120-year-old hammer. And he's a great tuner. So I just think I think we're getting kind of spoiled with these new carbon fiber hammers that are just so good that these other ones seem like they're not good anymore.
if I had my world, what I would have done is created kits and had the a hammer offerings that were separate. You know, I did think it, and I worked with so many students over the years, and but I bought the professional kit. I'm like, I know it says that, but my tuning hammer is worth about what you paid for the professional kit, and I know that's frustrating. So yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, in the documentation on the PTG on, you know, the basic tool sets and how much, you know, you would spend for like 3 levels of kits, they keep the hammer outside of the kit.
They do.
To your point that you're going to spend a chunk of money on your hammer and then a chunk of money on a basic tool set. And then you're going to build your tool set beyond that and maybe even upgrade your hammer at some point.
Yes.
But I agree with you. If you were to create a kit, have hammer options and then the kit on top of that.
Yeah. You're probably going to spend the same amount on tools as you are the hammer. If you're going to get $500 for tools and you're at that level, you're probably going to spend about $500 on a lever.
Yeah,
or,
between getting, let's say, a $300 hammer and then getting maybe a couple of different angles and a couple of different tips, so you have a 1, 2, and 3 tip. You're going to spend $500.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so for all those that are watching this now and that are future going to watch this, trust me, it will pay off in the end. I know that it sounds like a lot of money, but you can get started. And I think what happens, and that's what everybody hears, we got started and then we kind of caught the bug. And I'm like, oh, I can do this. This is fun. And the reality is, I mentioned, I've had this for 20 plus years. You know, the tools don't go bad. You just have fun with it. You get to make people's lives so much more enjoyable for what you're doing, and yeah, we just get to keep the industry alive. So for those watching that are a little discouraged,
if I had another person that I talked to that wanted to start out, I would say get a basic hammer to practice to start learning your technique, and then upgrade. As soon as you feel like you're comfortable, they upgrade.
Yeah, I really think I know I said it a few times, but the upgrading the tips to a better tip, I would say it takes the hammer from 1 out of 10 from going from like a 3. It definitely takes it to like a 6 or somewhere around there.
Yeah, it doubles it.
Dramatically changes it. Yeah.
No, I think that's good. Now, Victor, I want to see it. I want to see the Casado. You have it?
That's right here. Yeah, it matches my shirt, so I'm gonna get out of the frame here.
So that is. Oh,
it's a 15 degree. It's the short insert, I believe, and Casado tip. Which, after doing a lot of research, I really think, not just because I have it, but I think that he does make the best tips. Out of all the ones I've seen, they're handmade in Connecticut, and they're pretty neat. It's 2 different kind of wood. It's from a tamarindo tree and the national tree of Jamaica here at the top. I didn't know that it was gonna be made of this wood, but when I found out, it's kind of personal. The type of wood, that's the kind of trees that I grew up around at my grandparents' house. Yeah. So when I was like, man, this is just the most perfect thing. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm actually going to be meeting with Randy probably at the end of the week and talking a little bit about what we do, because that guy, he piano craft, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And so
yeah, he just redid his shop. It looks awesome. It looks really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and Randy's such a genuine guy. You know, he just really loves the industry and he wants to help people out. And so I'm excited to kind of work with him more together in the future. So.
Now, I do know his tips. I know he's designed them so that you can use the tips even if you're using a different hammer. I mean, I don't know. This is just from memory. I believe you can use them on the Fuyon hammers as well as the Yan. And he modeled them after the BKB tip. I know that's kind of like one that a lot of people use. So I'm not sure. I think you have to get an adapter for the Yan, but he'll sell the insert that you can use this tip with the Yan. I know that he was trying to do that. So, if you're used to your tuning hammer, you don't have to jump to get one of his. But if you want to use his tips, which I think are the best, you can use his tips with he has different adapters, I believe.
That's awesome. Yeah, because you know what this needs? is a little gunmetal black on here. That'll look kind of sick. Did somebody say something about piano craft? Can't see something. I thought somebody said something in the message.
Yeah, Joel said, can I use piano craft in my business name?
I think so. I mean, we have it trademarked, but what we're doing is we're wanting to create a new term for the industry. Mm-hmm. And so our goal is to make it so that everybody is saying, hey, I work, my industry is piano craft, and that's what I do. So
there is somebody they have the name Island Piano Service on not Whitby, like down across from Seattle somewhere, Vashon or something.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of going Island Piano Services, and I was thinking, well, that's a little too close.
Island Piano Craft would be sick.
All right. I figured since it's your thing, I'd ask first.
Yeah, I don't see there being any things because what the reality is, I don't know if that's me chopping up. Is that me? I'm sorry.
I don't know. It could be me. I'll mute myself again.
What we did is we've actually trademarked it and termed it for us, but just not for Artisan, but this is what we're trying to create as a new way of talking, a new industry. And so our goal wasn't to make it like Artisan is piano craft. I mean, Artisan is piano craft, but so is Michael, so is Robert, so is Victor. We are piano craft. That is what we're doing. And so that was the purpose of it. And I think we've been able to accomplish that in just a short amount of time. Imagine a year from now when we're really promoting it. And I mean, you all saw the website, that first image is like, yes, that is what we get to do every day. Get our hands dirty working with pianos, and that's piano craft. So I think there's going to be a lot of people saying, Robert's, what I do is piano craft. And I love that.
There's a restorer in San Antonio, and his business is San Antonio Piano Craft.
Yeah, that's great. That's what that just rolls off the tongue more than I ever thought that piano technology has. I never really cared for that term. Even when I first got started at 15, I'm like, piano technology. Okay. Yeah. Now, Joel, did you have the Fujin tuning hammer? So you had that? I know I'm not saying it right. Is it
like
Fujan?
an Amazon cheapo?
Yeah, Fujan.
It doesn't say the name on it. I forget what it was. Oh, it's like even weirder than that. It's like XUYIYUE.
And Stacey, is that what you have as well?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I've seen these on Amazon for like $60.
Something like that, yeah. They
Okay.
here.
So a tech who I love and adore in Utah did his first 6,000 pianos with this tuning lever, and that's why I have it. He gave it to me, and I love it so much. So, it's a lot of tunings.
That's a lot of tunings on a hammer. Hopefully you changed the tip out. Unlike me.
Yeah. No, he did. Before he gave it to me, he gave me a new tip. But no, it's special. It's like super sentimental.
What's the life of a tip?
Ooh, that's a good question. 20 years and counting. 1,000 pianos a year.
Okay.
My mentor, the one he has on there, it's the same tip that the mentor that he got it from, and he thinks that it has to be at least 110 years old.
Yeah.
And he always jokes, he's like, this tip was made by dwarves out of Upfield.
Like it
looks brand new.
So it's from Moria. Yeah. Okay, I understand.
Yeah. It looks brand new, and I'm like, there's no way. He's like, that's the same tip, Victor. And I look at it, and it's perfect. It's a perfect star. Not disformed at all.
Yeah. No, if you're pushing that pin, I mean, what you'll do is you'll wear that out more if you're not fully seated in to that tuning pin. Obviously, it'll round it out. You're pushing it in there. I've just never changed it out. So funny. And it's like a lot of people will change it out like every year. I've heard some people say, yeah, I changed mine out every year. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Okay, one more question. I forgot. What's the significance of the rings got 2 rings, some with 3 rings, 1 ring. What's the preference? 2 seems to be the standard.
Yeah, so Robert's
what does
talking
it
about
mean?
is right here. So 2 is the standard. So this stands for a 2/0. 2/0 tuning pin. Number 2 is our standard tuning pins that most pianos will have. So when you see a third layer right here, that's called a 3/0. And that will be for pianos that have been restrung using oversized tuning pins. Yes, right there. Justin has one. That's a 3/0. So that's a little bit, so that the hole in that, it's going to be a little bit larger.
So, okay, it's just wider in that. Okay.
Yep,
Yeah, it has to do with the circumference of the tip and the size of the tuning pin that it would hold good.
Can anybody guess if Yamaha pianos come with a smaller or larger tuning pin than a 2/0?
Probably larger, if I had to guess.
Okay, larger. Anybody else? Why larger? Michael just threw it out there. That's okay. You wanted to get on the board. You wanted to get a couple hundred more points. It ain't happening, Michael. I'm going to catch up. They actually, as you go into the field, you're going to find that Yamahas are the easiest pianos to tune. One of the reasons is they have a smaller tuning pin.
Oh, smaller. Okay.
It's about like a 1.5, I believe. And the idea behind that is the smaller the pin, the less surface area that string is wrapped around, and you can do smaller movements and get it honed in just right. And also the smoothness of the pull. So Yamahas are a pleasure to tune. They're so easy in comparison to everything else.
Here's a good example if you can see it.
Oh yeah.
So you can see the difference in the size. Let me see whether.
Yeah.
So you can see the one that's closer to me is a wider one. That's a number 3, and the other one is a number 1. So you can see the difference in size of the star.
Yeah, that's quite a big difference.
Yeah. And then of course a number 4 would be even wider.
Yeah.
Than what the number 3 would be.
I've seen some where rebuilders have put like a size 5/0 tuning pin in it, and it was just massive. My tuning hammer like barely got onto it.
Well, is there any piano that we should be forewarned that it's going to be a 3/0 if we go in there and it's a, Chickering before 1950 or something bizarre that I'm going to need a different tip?
No, I think you should know that there's a handful of pianos out there that are just going to be a bear to tune. So for me, the hardest pianos to tune, there are 2 pianos that I kind of will say those are the hardest pianos to tune, hands down, are Steinway uprights and Charles Walter uprights. I find that the Charles Walter uprights are that way. Their pins are really snug, really tight, and they're really poppy. They have a multi-laminated pin block, which is normal, but they have so many layers. I almost feel like there's too much glue in there, that more glue than wood. And so it just feels weird, and it's poppy, and it doesn't go just right. Similar experience with the Steinways, but a lot of times there's these weird false beats in there in the upright as you get into the treble, and they just don't tune as well. So those are both American-made pianos. Sorry, Charles Walter. Sorry, Steinway. You guys made harder pianos to tune. That's just a fact. Yamaha's by far the easiest pianos to tune that I have, so that I've worked on.
That's why they call it the technician's piano.
Yep.
Yeah. I know Randy does have on his website. You can find he made a really big chart of the sizes for his tips to pianos. So it'll kind of just tell you. I mean, he has a lot. It's all the pianos, a huge catalog, and then right next to it, it'll tell you what tip would work best. And then he kind of gives you like his sizing gauge that he goes off of. So you can kind of reference that.
That's awesome. I will talk to Randy about that and seeing if we can get that document and put it in our resources, because that's cool. Yeah. I didn't know he did that.
A lot of pianos, and he has it by like years. So he'll have like all the Yamahas by the years and the serial numbers. It's pretty in depth.
Jeez, Randy, what a nerd.
Hey, would you link that, Victor?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, I think that Yeah, when it comes to those pianos, those are kind of a bear. A lot of times people will kind of freak out a little bit when they get to a Bösendorfer Grand because they don't have that much tension as you would think. A lot of times it feels like the tuning pins are a little loose at times. But the reality is that's just how they're built, and they will hold tune. I had to do damage control before because a customer had bought a Bösendorfer, very high-end piano, and their technician went to go and tune it. And they're like, oh, this needs to be sent back. The tuning pins are too loose, and it's not sitting at 170 pounds of pressure, or excuse me, 95 or 120 pounds of pressure. So let's send it back. And I'm like, no, it held. But it is kind of shocking at times. Some of these newer pianos, like the Bösendorfers, it's like, wow, that's not that stiff. And so just kind of know that going into it. Whereas like a Mason Hamlin grand piano, like that's pretty stiff. It's pretty stiff.
Going back to where you're talking about the pin block layers, on the ones that you have seen issues with, are those the ones that have like 15 to 20 layers with the multiple glue structures as opposed to having, 7 to 10 layers or something like that?
Yeah, so Steinway, historic Steinways, and I think even modern Steinways with their blocks will have about 5 layers. They're crisscross, matched. But there's other pin blocks that are, there's something called a delignate pin block. There's Bolduc, there's delignate. Those are 2 very popular rest plank pin block manufacturers. So Bolduc is very typical, like Steinway used to have, which I think has like 5 to 7 layers. Delignate has 2 to 3 times that, I believe. And so whenever my dear friend and rebuilder, he swears by delignate because he likes the fact that it will never loosen up. But he's a rebuilder. Me as a piano tuner, I'm like, I'd like to have a little bit more. I like it to not kill me. And so, but yeah, the more layers is what I found is the more rigid, more stuck that tuning pin seems to be. Again, though, the more layers, the less that pin block will swell and expand. So it will stay more rigid for longer in theory. Yeah, it's all those little things that make up the piano. Let me see. I'm trying to think if there was another thing on tuning levers. I talked with Mark and Don briefly about the impact wrenches, and they've noticed the same thing, that you can get lazy with it and not know when you're really moving a tuning pin. And so I told them that's what I had experienced with technicians. And so using something like these, early on as you're getting started on your uprights and grands is a good idea because you'll develop that tuning technique. What tips should I own? Well, to be honest, you talking to the wrong guy.
I'm sorry, David. No, so that's I put the link to Randy's website, and you're gonna scroll down and you're gonna hit that. He has like commonly asked questions. And so under there, that's where you go under there. What tips should I own? And then it's going to say like view chart. And then you can look at go ahead and hit that. It won't let me send it through here, a document.
Okay.
But there's a link, scroll down. So what tips should I own? And then it says chart. You can click it. And
it's a PDF file that you can click and then download.
Yeah. I'm on
Victor, I know the prices go up, the prices go down, but generally, what was the price point on something like that? Is that the $600 to $700 price point?
Yeah, I would say sometimes he has sales on ones that I guess he's had for a while. I'm gonna say they're from the 600 to 800.
Yeah.
Just for the hammer, and then I will say his tips get really pricey really fast. Plus the insert. So an insert plus the tip is about $200. It's gonna be like about $200. So a hammer and a tip and a insert is gonna be about $1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty it's up there.
I look at it as a fun, like, hey, I'm coming up on my 1-year anniversary of owning my business and working on pianos. This is a fun gift to give to yourself.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's definitely up there, and but I'm pretty biased, but I think he does make the best hammers out of everybody. He calls them levers. He won't say hammer. Yeah.
Ugh, in my email, I think I said hammer. And I think I knew that he wasn't going to like that. Oh, no. Yeah. Right there. I'll just like, when I talk to him, like, how's the hammer business there? No, I watched this documentary on Rolls-Royce. And it was like all the things that they do in these amazing cars and the customizations. I feel like that's kind of what Randy has kind of carved himself a really cool niche in that space. And it's kind of like that, Reyburn. Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Good. Keep going. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I think that it would be cool if he is able to like plug a USB into it and have some lights on the inside, like Starry Night. They have a Rolls Royce like that. That'd be cool. Patent pending.
Yeah, that'd be pretty unique. I do know that you were talking about weight earlier and how at Supply 88 they're trying to get the lightest. If you custom order one, he does let you know because he has a variety of different woods. If you want to make it a little bit heavier, he could use a wood that's heavier and things like that. Or if you're going after a certain wood, he'll let you know like this is going to be heavier though compared to using say cedar or something or a soft lighter wood. So I know maybe if you're trying to get a heavier one, he can do that for you. You can add weight by using a denser wood.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe add a little bit of brass in there too. No, I'm excited.
To make them that look like marble. I don't know how he does that. They look like stone.
Are they not stone? Like that'd be kind of cool.
He does. He won't say what it is. He's a couple times. He's kind of keeping it a secret what it is, but it looks like real stone. It looks pretty neat. It looks like marble.
I wonder if he's using the technique that countertop people do to create a faux, stone. So it's a resin, I think, and then they mix colors in, and then they're able to make it look like marble or make it look like granite and stuff like that.
Probably.
Yeah, and again, we've talked a lot about some hammers in the $300 to $400 range, all the way up to roughly the $1,000 range. But just so know that you can buy the $15 Amazon hammer. And again, like that technician that I met, this guy was like the most insane dynamite technician, and he just whipped out an incredible tuning with a $15 apprentice tuning hammer, and it was just amazing. So you'll learn to work with what you got, but just know that down the line, what you get with the better, more expensive hammers, you get more rigidity, you get better. And this is, I think this is the main one. You get a better connection with the tuning tip and the tuning pin. That's really what you're getting. I mean, yes, I just don't know how much you're going to know how much rigid this is versus the yawn. But you will notice the differences in the tuning tips from an apprentice hammer, starter hammer, just like the PTA hammer was, to something like this. And so as you kind of increase and get further along, have more money to spend, upgrading wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah, I will say I feel like there are some people I've talked to that they really don't. It's not about from the tip to the back. That really doesn't matter. It's all about the tip you're using, the length, and the angle, and everything else to them is kind of it play a factor, but not as much as how close is that tip to the pin, how well is it holding it, how tight it is. Yeah. And so I think if you get a good balance between those two, you'll be in a good spot.
Yeah.
And another one, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, is the Charles Falk tuning hammer.
I like the look of the Falk tuning hammer. I've never used it.
I know Andy Barlow, that's what he uses. And I think those two, like the Kestrel from Supply 88, I think those are like in a good sweet spot where you're getting it's the best bang for your buck. Yeah, they're kind of similar style. Well, no, they're kind of different.
Like the Falk is a little closer to this.
Yeah, it's like an in between, like a modern. Yeah. Yeah. Between like an old school and a new school. But I really think his are the same thing. Best bang for your buck. I know David Anderson. He is one of those, and he's pretty famous in the tuning industry. That's one of the best tuners, and that's the one he used for forever, and he was always saying good things about it. And if he used one, I mean, it had to be pretty good.
I remembered the word. You have more of the classic style, and in these terms, it's almost more tactile, and that seems to kind of be the case with a lot of gear nowadays. You have more old school style, which is fine, and then you have a little bit more tactile. And so whether it's camping gear, whether it's tool stuff, kind of we're going, there's definitely a splitting of the road, and you can kind of decide where you want to go. And so, but Stephanie, I definitely do want to play around with this. And to your all's point, even just moving this right here to the different tuning pins like that, that's a lot lighter than this.
Yeah, I pulled up the website. The Reyburn tools can run anywhere from $400 to $700, depending on what style you get, and also what wood that you might get if you get one of the more classic hammers that have the ball ends and the custom woods. So mine's a little more on the high end because it's got rosewood. But if you go to more like a classic walnut, then it's going to be a little cheaper as well. And they do have some mini length hammers, so they're almost like the ones that you'd use for small hammers for doing tuning pins, and not a full hammer for doing tuning. Those are more in the $400 range.
Got it.
But then you get the full hammers that go up to around 700 or so.
The nice thing is any of these, whether it's Supply 88, Reyburn, Falk, Casado, the level of workmanship is like you can't go wrong. I mean, they've elevated so high. It's not some guy doing it in his garage willy-nilly. Like, this is high-end stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think part of the reason is I actually got to touch these at the conference, and that's part of the reason why I ended up buying it. The Reyburn one, if I had come across Randy's stuff first, I may have bought his first.
Yeah.
But both of them, based on everything that Victor has told, is I think equal quality between both Randy's stuff and Reyburn's hammers from a technical spec. Now, again, a lot of it's personal preference is my take on it.
Well, what we would like to do is once we actually open it up to the live trainings, the week-long intensives, we want to go ahead and have like a whole wall full of the different tuning hammers that are offered. So people can throughout the week be like, okay, I'm going to go do some tuning. I'm going to try the Falk. I'm going to go try this. I'm going to go try that. Because I've just never really seen that. And that would be kind of cool.
That would be a great offering for anybody.
How piano-graph would that be? Just a wall?
Yeah, have 12 to 15 hammers that everybody can try, whether it be steel or carbon fiber or ball end, non-ball end.
Yes.
Yep. And then also the degrees be able to swap out for 12.5 to 10 degree to 5 degree.
Yeah. Well, just so you know, Friday's coming, and we're going to talk some business, and I'm going to give you my 5 book recommendations that are a must-have. That are, just so you know, there's going to be some reading stuff I'm going to challenge you on. You might be a little surprised at what my 5 books that are like, yes, this is what we've done, and this is kind of some book and literature that led to it. It'll be some.
I've been reading some too, so I've got some suggestions to toss in there for Michael's 2 or 3 as well.
Oh, I love it.
I got a recommendation for if you're gonna be starting practicing with the Kestrel. I did, like you're saying, moving the tuning pin, the tuning hammer from pin to pin. I've seen people with the carbon fiber, since they're so light, just never moving your hand from the end. Just pick it straight up from the pin and then move it. So, like if I have it here, I just pull it off and then just move it. I mean, because trying to do that with this.
That's pretty cool.
You really
can't doing that with this.
Yeah, you got to move your hand down to the head and move it. I've seen people with this; they just never move their hand from the end. You just one to the other. I don't know,
It doesn't work for me yet doing that.
Yeah,
but I like just
I can't do it either.
The extra weight of moving it. That's what has impressed me with the carbon fiber.
I can't do it either. But I've seen some people do it, and I'm like, man, that looks pretty efficient. You just stay in the same position, don't move.
All right, well, this is something that we could all kind of experiment on Stephanie's behalf. Is just like okay, try the heavier one, try the lighter one, and just see like, okay, no, I do feel a difference, or this, because it is a great question. All right, y'all.
Oh, I do have one question for you, David. Thinking ahead, with Monday being Memorial Day, will there be a session on Memorial Day or not?
Yes.
Okay.
We work on Mondays. Ain't no.
I figured it was a coin flip, whether you do or don't. So I wanted to ask.
Plus,
everybody wears something patriotic.
It's easy to do this when it doesn't feel like work. So, as long as it doesn't feel like work, I think we're going to be all good. And we do want to go into some of the more kind of basic stuff like, okay, hey, we're going to do tuning practice. What is the precursor to tuning practice and really get that tuning time down? Just so you know, like we're always actively looking for technicians to join our locations. And the biggest question we have is, what's your tuning time? What's your tuning time? What's your tuning time? And if they're at 3 hours, 4 hours, then we're like, okay, here's some material, here's some reading stuff. But there's actual practical ways to get that tuning time down. And we want to kind of recreate some of the videos that we've made to discuss with this, and just kind of recreate them in a more fluid way. So we're going to be doing some more of that stuff. I promise I'm working on getting a grand piano in there because there's a world of stuff we're going to be doing with this grand piano. So.
David, I'm so sorry. I have one more question. I'm sorry to keep you here. But it's not tuning related. It's about key height and key dip. I was working on that today. And I want to see if you came across this because, man, I was having such a rough time. It's an old player piano, but the key height is so high. It's almost at 70 millimeters. And so I set it around 69 because that's kind of what the average was. And I spoke with and it has 2 key slips. And so the last key slip, it's pretty high. So I was like, yeah, it makes sense for those key heights to be that high. But he was saying that sometimes there would be things underneath the keys, and so the height was a little bit higher, so it wouldn't be hitting those things. But I don't know if should I bring that key height down or leave it where it would have been.
I would check your extremes. Go to the key number 1, key number 88, and measure from there because those will have the least amount of wear. And that will give you the best representation. Were those at 70?
Yeah, it's pretty much, 68 to 70 around there. So I set it today around 69.
Okay.
But then my key dip, I was having to add tons of punchings to the key dip, I guess because it was so high. And so my mentor gave me a 10.5 millimeter. Would you recommend that, doing a bigger key dip then if that key height is so high?
What I would do is before you do that, set your level and maybe do obviously you're blocking up your first and your last, right?
Yeah.
So you put your straight edge on there and then go ahead and do one of let's say middle F and set it to that. And then put the key stick off. See how much front rail pin you have left.
Okay.
So for instance, say this is the tuning, this is the key and it goes on that front rail pin. The more you're raising that pin or that key, you're not going to have as much pin. You want a fair amount of pin, but if you've raised them up to where you're barely touching, no, we want to go down.
Okay.
And so then the other check, there's 2 more checks. Make sure that the key slip, that it's not poking, that key isn't too high, that you can see a lot of underneath the key. And then the third one is make sure the fall board can close properly.
Oh, okay. I need to check that. I didn't check that. Yeah. It looks good with the key slip on. It looks correct, just right underneath the key slip. But yeah, the dip, I was starting to run into issues with that because the key height was so high when I was doing the dip. 10 millimeters was too. I was having to add tons of punchings. And so, would you recommend doing a lower dip, like 10.5?
No. Again, I've noticed that with player pianos, they get packed in. They were packed in so much because unlike other pianos that get played a half an hour a week, they could be played a half an hour a day. An hour a day, and so they get packed in. So it's not uncommon for these player pianos to get more worn. And so you're probably going to have to block up and get some cardboard punchings and get them up there. But as long as it's in those parameters that it looks good with the case parts, there's plenty of pin, I would go ahead and put it up to 10 millimeters. Once you go more than that, it starts feeling too much. Is it a player right now or is the player off?
No, they took it out. So
I would definitely go just
Okay. Yeah. I did add. Thankfully I did have a set of new front row bushings that were a little bit thicker, so I don't have to put so much punchings. But would you also recommend that, just putting new punchings in?
I would, because those centers are going to be so compressed. Don't get me in trouble with your mentor. Don't say, hey, well, David said this, so I don't want to hear.
It was a kind of push and play there. And then also I forgot to do my lost motion, so I had to do key level twice.
Because they weren't holding down the keys?
Yeah, I totally forgot. He told me, he's like, "Hey, did you do your last motion?" I was like, "Well, I am now." Yeah. I'm sorry, David. I'm Michael. What were you gonna say?
So, just as a frame of reference, my 1918 Thompson, I'm starting to work on my key level and key dip, and it's at 67 millimeters.
Yeah.
So and that's on either end. So I'm kind of in the same situation. I was trying to think, well, do I need to get smaller bushing, balance rail bushings to drop that? But I'm just going to leave it at 67 and bring up the ones that are low up to 67 across the board.
Yeah. I was worried. I was like, man, this is so high, and I thought I was going to start removing punchings. But he said that go to your ends and then get, that'll be your what you're going to do, and then everything to put into that.
And I figured it's just because of the age of the piano that's what and this is just what they created as a standard, because I put the balance rail punchings equivalent to what was already in there. And it actually, other than a few keys that are off, it actually looks pretty good and it feels pretty good. But I do need to, level everything out, and then, to David's point, look at the dip and see whether, because most of them are dipping at the 10 millimeter. So I think it's not that far off.
One thing to remember is if you're all replacing punchings, like the felt punchings, don't go specifically with the balance rail, don't go with the big chunky one. I always recommend going against the thinner balance rail and then put cardboard underneath that, because otherwise that thick stuff compresses so much over the years.
Okay. Yeah.
So don't go with the extra thick ones, go with the thinner and then build it up the rest of the way with some cardboard.
Okay. Yeah. I had an idea for maybe a future video later, but choosing felts and punchings, because God, I get so stressed because there's so many options, and so maybe how to figure out what punching you need to get, or what felt do you need to order. I think that would be great. Yeah, it would relieve a lot of stress.
In that as well. Just thinking anything related to the key bed.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, or like dampers as well. Like, what am I going to order if I need to replace dampers or things like that?
All the fun stuff we get to do.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go get some food and jump in the pool. I'll see you guys later. I'll see you on Friday.
Have fun at pool time.